welcome to GreenBiz Studio. I'm John Davies, Senior Vice President for GreenBiz, and I'm joined today by Veli Ivanova, PhD, Principal, and America's Leader for Climate Change and Sustainability Services at Ernst & Young. Welcome, Veli.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, has recently published some interesting research around the role of ESG and boards of directors. So what is the role of the board in terms of ESG?
So, John, we work a lot with our clients around governance, obviously a very hot topic with our clients related to sustainability and ESG. And we also work very closely with our Center for Board Matters on defining the priorities, the initiatives that board need to take over with regard to broader responsibilities and in particular with regard to ESG. So we came up recently with 5 priorities based on our conversations with clients, and they really related to the opportunities for boards to help companies create long-term value. One of the first priorities we identified was around addressing heightened investor expectations. We all know how much asset owners, asset managers are focusing on ESG, and the board has a particular role to play in engaging with investors. We also think for board it's important to understand the whole ecosystem of ESG players, including stakeholders, including rating and ranking agencies, and really guide companies with regard to their performance and competitiveness in the market. We also identified the role that the board needs to play around guiding strategy that really drives, again, long-term value, stakeholder value in a way that's meaningful for the companies which they sit on the boards of. It's, I think, also very important to recognize the role of the board in supporting the integration of ESG across functions, across processes, really across the whole business strategy of an organization. For example, embedding ESG in enterprise risk management. And then I think last but not least, is also very critical for boards to consider how the companies are telling their ESG story. Is their financial and non-financial story and disclosures and reporting really aligned and telling the stakeholders a consistent story?
That is very important. So I want to get a little more granular. What's the role of the audit committee in terms of ESG?
That's a really interesting question. And again, we've been working with a lot of audit committees over the years. And while last year, the audit committee was hardly engaged at all on the topics of ESG, now we have audit committee chairs actually asking us to go and present on ESG developments, ESG topics. It's obviously a huge priority for the chairs of the audit committees. And they're really focusing on creating the same processes, the same controls, the same data enablers that companies already have in place for financial disclosure and reporting. And they're focusing on creating the same stringency, the same objectivity, the same reliability of data related to non-financial disclosures. Again, I can tell you that we recently did a presentation in front of about 40 chairs of audit committees. Their level of sophistication, knowledge, and understanding of these topics has significantly increased even in the past 12 months. So a lot more focus from audit chair committees on these topics.
I know that all boards are not created equal. You know, they don't all have precisely the same committees. So where do you see the ESG discussions occurring on different boards?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, not boards are created equal, and we see a lot of focus on ESG. For example, if a board has an EHS committee, that would be more relevant, for example, for mining and metals companies or oil and gas companies. companies that have traditionally focused on the health and safety of their employees as well as their environmental impacts. We're also seeing a lot of focus from the nomination and governance committees, obviously on these topics related to the board composition, related to the compensation of the executive teams, and how compensation is connected with or related with the ESG performance of a company. But I would say overall, I think boards are getting a lot more evolved in their thinking and their expectations from executive management related to ESG.
Great. And, I'm sure we could have this discussion for a whole hour, but unfortunately, we just have a little bit of time. So I want to thank Veli Ivanova from Ernst & Young for sharing her perspective on the role of boards in ESG. Thanks, Veli.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be with you, John.